Cool. I think we are live. So people who are joining in, a very good evening. Okay, very good evening on a Saturday. It's a weekend. I can probably understand it. So a lot of you must have been sort of in the chill mode. But again, like we are here to upskill, right? So feel free to first of all, like if I'm audible, like once whoever is joining in, like feel free to write in the chat audible, right? The text itself, like audible, right? So just type in audible. Yeah, yeah. Very good evening. Like if I'm audible, just type in audible, right? So that you know we can know that everything is working fine from our side. Yep. Great, great, great. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so just we'll be waiting for a couple of more minutes, and before some more people join in, and so that things are also set up, and then we'll invite our mentor speaker today, right? We will be joined by a very special mentor who has done a lot of things in the software development industry, right? So I'm sure a lot of you will have all your doubts clear today and learn a lot in terms of Android development in general, right? So yeah, so we'll be waiting for a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, like whoever is joining, like if I'm audible, if everything is working fine for you guys, if you can see the live chat itself, just use the live chat, type in audible, like just feel free to interact on the live chat itself. We'll be resuming in a couple of minutes. Yep. As soon as someone is joining, just feel free to type in audible in the chat. If I'm audible, we'll be starting the session in just under a minute, right? So cool. So I think we'll quickly start with today's session itself, right? So first of all, again, a very good evening to whoever is joining in, right, on a Saturday evening. So today we have something special planned for everyone, right? Today we will be joined by Devanshu Datta, who is SDE in the Android team at Gojek, right? So Gojek, if anyone doesn't know, so Gojek is a MNC. It's a sort of super app which is based out of Indonesia. I'm sure most of you have already heard the company name Gojek, and many people must be dreaming of working into such companies, right? So he has past experiences at companies like HighRadius, CodePath, and multiple other open source contributions which he has been doing for the community, right? So today we will be joined by him. So and our session will be very specific to Android development. So if you are enthusiastic about Android development, if you're enthusiastic about mobile app development, this session will be for you. And there will be something special also shared in the session. So if you for example, if you have been developing Android apps and know the pain of running Android Studio locally on your machines itself, you'll know the pain of running the Gradle and doing all the hard stuff, right? Your machine gets heated up. It's such a pain, to have Android Studio locally, especially if you're on a low end, machine, right? So that's where we'll share something special in today's session as well, where you can, like, irrespective of any laptop or any desktop you have, right? You'll be able to build Android apps on Android Studio itself, right? So, of course, now without any further delay, I'll quickly add Devanshu to the stream. So he'll do a short introduction of himself, in his from his own mouth, and then we'll, kickstart with today's session, right? So, yep. So, hey Devanshu, man. Hey,
Hello.
please go ahead and give an intro to the audience. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jaideep, for the great intro. So I'm Debanshu. I'm currently a Android engineer at Gojek. So Gojek is basically like a super app. It's mostly based in Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Singapore. So it's basically a super app. I actually work as an Android engineer there. Besides, I'm personally enthusiastic towards Android. I like mobile development as a whole. Previously I also worked as a full stack engineer at HighRadius. So yeah, that's overall I my professional journey. Besides, I like to listen to music, mostly idioms, and yeah, I guess that's what I do in my free time, mostly listening to music and yeah, coding only. So yeah, I guess that's from my side as an intro.
Awesome, awesome. Super cool, man. Super cool. I think, everyone will be eager to learn from you today what you have planned for today's session. So, I think you can quickly start sharing your screen and we can move forward from there. Yep.
Yeah, sure. So let me start sharing my screen. Um Let me know, guys, if it's visible.
Yep, I can see the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys,
Okay.
if you have it's visible or if it's not visible, feel free to write in the chat, and otherwise Devanshu will be continuing with the planned things, right? So Devanshu, you can proceed. It's visible.
Yeah, sure. So like I will be turning off the camera a bit, maybe to have a better bandwidth for the network. So yeah.
Sure,
uh,
sure.
yeah. So yeah, so starting off, I will be starting off with what is Jetpack Compose. So Jetpack Compose is a way you write Android application. Okay, so like what are we actually doing in this particular session? So first of all, if you are not from a Android domain, we will be discussing about Android and Android Studio a bit. Then we'll be jumping into Kotlin. Kotlin is the language that we use for Android development. And if you have some prior knowledge about Android development, we actually use XML files to write the design part, right, for applications. But in this particular new what you can say, a new toolkit, a UI toolkit was introduced by Google, I guess, last year almost, and it is Jetpack Compose. Jetpack Compose is basically you write the code with your like Kotlin only. Okay, we will discuss it more in the later phase, and we will be actually covering topics like text box, basic rows and columns, some lazy list, then state management, a bit of state management, and we will be trying to demo and clone Instagram UI a bit, like not total Instagram UI, but like a overview of the feed page. Okay, we will try that out. So first of all, if I guess every one of you are mostly familiar with Android, so Android is almost dominating the mobile industry for almost a decade now. And Android is like everywhere, like from your watches to your smart car to your, like nowadays they also have TVs. So it's like really cool, like Android is everywhere. So that's why I guess there is never a never there's always a demand for a Android engineer, right? So that's why I guess Android is something that you should actually know, even if you are not Android engineer, but you should actually know about the basics, right? It actually helps you sometimes, right? So that's, I guess, Android is like Linux based software. As you know, a Linux based kernel is, and it's built on open source. It's, you can actually see the actual Android code. It is actually open sourced. So that's the power of open source, I will say, right? Now I will be moving on with this Android Studio. So Android Studio is, as you know, it's a basically a, what you can say, a fork of the IntelliJ plugin, IntelliJ, and then they have revamped it to the requirement of a Android app. Like for example, the UI part, the handling of the section, the CPU management, all those things. So I guess Android Studio is quite a heavy app, like from a perspective of a developer who I have been developing for almost 4 years now. So it is a bit like it is a bit tough on a low end device sometimes. So actually we have our like sponsor for more efficient. They will be actually like providing us with a pretty good UI cloud based platform, which will basically run the Android Studio in a cloud environment rather than your local device. So what's the benefit that you find in here? So the benefit will basically be like, for example, I can run my Android Studio on a cheap old laptop. Like if I have a i3 or i5 laptop, my personal laptop, which is my, I guess everyone has a college laptop. So these days, so the college laptop mine was almost 5 years old, and it was still running a great speed because it's not running on your local device, right? It's running on cloud, so it's really efficient. And besides, there is a much like easier, for example, like if you want to share, for example, your particular state, like it's like a Zoom share. Okay, there's a feature they have that shares your like view to like a separate person. They can just enter the code and they can just see what you're doing. They can live edit it. Like you can also see the what the person is editing. So that is another cool feature that I found here. And also I did see that it is really helpful in case you have to maintain an environment. For example, if you're a small startup, you have like maybe you want to try out different Android Studio, but you have to maintain the standards, maybe the libraries and all those things. It's easier with this cloud approach, right? So we will be diving deep. You can actually open this particular link. I guess Jaideep can share this link on the chat, maybe if like you guys can explore it a
Yep.
bit. I'll be jumping on just in a second. So for Android Studio and Android, it's fine, but you have to know the language, right? So we mostly use Kotlin these days. Previously we had Java, but Java is mostly not like not preferred these days, but though like large corporate applications still have Java in them, but mostly the companies are tilting mostly towards Kotlin. So Kotlin is a language you should have a look at. And if like it was better to learn Kotlin last year, because like it has been a while since Kotlin is here, but it's never too late. So just start with Kotlin, I will say. Okay, and Kotlin is basically a language which is not only for Android, but it's a generic multi-purpose language. You can like these days, Kotlin multi-platform, then Ktor backend, everything is coming up. So it's really nice to have a look into Kotlin as a language. Okay, so we'll be using Kotlin in our particular session. Besides, now let's jump into what is Jetpack Compose. So if you have a prior knowledge about Android app, so we have XML files which will basically be the like the UI, the front end the user sees, and the Kotlin or the Java is the backend part, like what is the functionality, on-click functions are being handled, right? But like later, like when you work at scale, like in a larger app or where there are multiple views, it becomes quite tedious to handle those many numbers of XML. Like if you are Android developer, you will surely understand the pain of making a round edged view, right? You have to like edge the round the edge of a button maybe. So it's a pain, right? I guess you if you have some idea about Android, you will surely feel that. So like what Google proposed is basically a like UI toolkit, which is basically Jetpack Compose. So Jetpack Compose is a way to make the native application these days, and it is using Kotlin as a language. So rather than writing the front end in XML, we will be writing the front end in Kotlin once again. So it's really good, like the it's really performant, and you will be using the like the power of Kotlin here. The Kotlin is really a good language. I will make sure that you will view some of those skills here maybe. So like what is the benefit of Jetpack Compose? Maybe like you have to write less code. Obviously, like if you like as I mentioned the previous example of rounding the corners of a button, it's quite pain. Like you have to make another file, you have to think how where to put in a drawable folder or the layout folder somewhere, like where like that kind of things. You have to define the stroke, that all those things. So it is reduced down to just a single line in Jetpack Compose. Intuitive, it's really intuitive to understand. Like you can really understand what is being done. It's like a readable sort of code. So it's really understandable, like dot and then do, then dot, then do this. So it's really understandable. So and overall it accelerates the development because it is actually faster, I will say, because views overall was like they have to find the hierarchy and all those things, tree structure. They do this here also, but the development times are quite faster. I will surely make you see the previews are really helpful. They didn't have it previously with the Android views, but with the Jetpack Compose they have previews. Powerful, yeah. It is easy to make any attractive UI that you see on Dribble or Behance. You can really easily see that those things, right? So maybe we can jump on to some application, like let's start off with building an application. I guess I have already shared the link for this. This is the website that we'll be using for our present development. Let me just switch to that particular screen. um, just a second. Hope this is visible to you guys. This is the website that we'll be using. They are a really great cloud service which they help us to run the Android application. Not only Android, they have support for IntelliJ and PyCharm also. So you will have a look. So let's sign in first. Let's sign in. Okay, I am already signed in. Let's just terminate it and show you guys. So when I sign in, I will have the bunch of option to launch environments. So we have multiple environments that you can see here, maybe like a Bumblebee. Like these are basically the versions of Android Studio, Chipmunk, Dolphin, IntelliJ, PyCharm, everything. You can just pick it up from here and start coding up. Okay, it's really easy. And you have tool chains like the Android setup, the React Native, and all those things. So it's really easy that you can pick up from anywhere. So I'll be taking up actually Dolphin for this particular showcase. So let's go for Dolphin. Okay. I guess you can already see the speed of the application. It is actually an old application. I guess I was building a time back, maybe. So yeah. Okay. So when you start your Android Studio, you can actually get a new project. Let's start off a new project. Okay, let's see how the new project as a system works. Okay, so when you start a new project, you will find that there are multiple options that are being added these days, like an empty compose activity, an empty compose with material tree. Might not be material tree. We might use material tree, but it's basically a way you. There's a different UI. You can see that it's like it's a goal. It's a square this side. So it's basically nothing much, but I will surely try to explain you during the session, right? So you can just choose a empty compose activity, and then I will go next. Make the application run anything, like I will just do demo app. Okay, so and I will just finish it, but I'm not actually doing it here because I already have a project set up so that it's easy for me to explain you guys the topics. So you guys just can finish this and it will be starting up. Okay, so it might take time, but with the cloud performance, it's really easy. It will take you just a minute to set it up and be at the same position that I am currently at. So when you just, let me just close all the tabs. Okay, so when you just open the compose application, first of all, it's like if it's your first time opening an Android application, you will actually have to select Android for easier viewing. And inside Android you have two sections, what is the Android app, and second is the Gradle script. So Gradle, if you have some idea about Maven, it is similar to Maven. So Gradle is basically like a builder sort of. It manages your dependencies, it builds your project, it builds the application which you can use as an APK, right? So all those things are being done here. So we might dive deep into a bit. So first of all, in this you will have some basic so this is not actually a dot you can see that you have application version. Okay, like these are basically the dependencies that you might need. These are plugins. Okay, and you are setting up the compose version. So we will be using 1.0.1. You can also choose any higher versions also. The present session will also be relevant for those, right? So let's dive this into, like, there are two things. There's a project and a module level. So modules are basically what you can think of as folders. Okay, like a subfolder sort of. So these are dependency for that subfolder. Okay, and this is for the project is basically for the whole project, as the name suggests, and modules are basically for the subfolders. Okay, now if you scroll down a bit, you can see that we have determined that we are using SDK of 33. 33 is basically the latest version of Android. Okay, I guess it is not named yet. I guess okay, this is something like S or R, not sure, but it's that the latest version of Android. Minimum SDK is basically the minimum SDK that the application that I built should support. It is 21, I guess Lollipop. Okay, so that have to be, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, guys, just do check it out. So this is the minimum version, this is the maximum version to which the app should support. And if you scroll down, you can also see that the Java version that I'm using Okay, the two things you might need to add is basically, first of all, build feature, that is compose true. So this will basically enable compose in your application. And besides, you need to do some compose options. Okay, I guess this will be actually be done automatically when you build a app like compose with the runner, right? And you need to add some dependencies, like these dependencies are already being added. So you can see that the compose, these are basically the requirement, the material UI, then the preview. I will show you the preview things. This is the life cycle for the application. Those things are quite similar as the normal Android app. These are the dependencies that you use, right? So this is basically the structure of the Gradle scripts. Right, let's move on to the application part. So in the application, if you are familiar with Android structure, there is a manifest folder. The manifest folder is basically consists of the, what you can say, it is equivalent to, I guess it is called in this, what is this called, man? I guess indexation. No, no, not sure. Never mind. So it's basically the structure of the application, right? So for example, the icon of the app, like the when you install the app, the icon of the app. Okay, those things are here. Okay, then maybe the name of the application, like for example, compose learning that we have made. This is the name of the application. Like when you run the application, you will see that. Okay, cool. And this is the activity that we have. Activity is basically what you can think of a screen. Okay, so this is a screen, and we will be actually looking into this activity. Okay, the name is main activity, right? So we'll be actually going into Java. Then we will go into this one. You will see that there is a UI folder and there is activity. Let's open the activity. Okay, so here you can see that the activity is having not presently, it's not having anything. It's basically like a blank, right? If I just run the application. Okay, let me run it. I will show you that it's just a simple blank screen, nothing much. Okay, so and so see, so let me explain you guys the activity is what you can think of as a screen sort of. Okay, like a screen. Okay, previously we used to write set content view, something that sort of in XML, and we pass the XML ID. Like I guess if you guys remember, if you are having some idea about Android Studio and Android development, you might remember that we used to use what is that called? Just a second. What happened? Okay, so as you can see that the application is running, right? And I don't think it took much time. I guess it's mostly took a minute to start up the application. It's a blank screen for now, right? We'll be diving deep what we need presently. So let's have a look. Okay, so this is first of all the set content. If you like, every time I surely suggest you, if you have any doubt regarding the what does this particular function do, just hover over it, you will get the idea regarding this. So if you can see, that's basically the compose given composable will be given activity, the content will be the root view. Okay, that's basically the root view. Like previously we had something like set content view, which, and then we will passing the resource id r dot layout dot this, and the UI, the Android Studio will boot it up, right? That particular UI. But we have this presently. Now you will also look one is that called the theme. Okay, what is theme? So themes are basically whenever you start an application, you sometimes find that it is having a dark theme, a light theme. Okay, they have a particular set of colors that they have to, maybe a green or blue. There are different like a primary color, a secondary color sort of things. So where does those things comes from? So if you expand the UI folder, you will find that there is a theme folder here. Okay, so inside the theme you will have multiple set of sections, right? If you open the, for example, a color section, you'll actually define the colors here. Like previously when you used to have XMLs, we actually did it somewhere here, right? In the XML file we will use, we will actually put it inside the colors right here. So it's something similar, but we are actually moving away from the XML perspective, right? So it's like the colors will be here, right? These are the basic colors. Like for now I didn't change anything, it's just basic color that you get, right? So these are the basic color that you get, right? Then there's shapes, it's similar to like if you have rounded corners, those sort of things. I guess you, if you have some idea, you already remember that you have to pass it somewhere here in the drawables, all those things. So we are ignoring that. Typography is basically the style of the application, right? Like for example, a font should be bold, normal, or italic. Those things you can set it up. Like for example, the body one is basically like it is having a default font weight, sorry, normal font weight, default font family, and the size is 16. So that's why you are having some examples. You can also play around with this, and all those things are combined into theme.kt, right? So this theme.kt is basically having the dark palette is basically the same colors that you just saw here, and we are using into our perspective, right? If it's a dark theme, use this color. If it's a light theme, use this color. That's it, nothing else. And you can also you can just see a if else, right? It's if it's a dark theme, use this color, light theme, use this color. Okay, and it is passed into material theme, right? And if you remember this compose theme, this is the one that we use in the here. So whenever you want to access any colors, you just have to do something like uh, material material theme dot, and you see you have colors, and you if you just do a dot, a background color, error color, so everything is already defined, right? It is already defined from that particular set of colors, and we are using it. Okay, now, so this is a basic structure of the present compose application, right? So we are understanding of the theme section. Now, since the application's UI is inside the Java, like the in the Kotlin structure only, so there is a many perspective or many ways you actually design, or what you can say, like manage your pages or like views, right? So we will be having a simple page are basically the screens which I provide here. That's it. Like there are multiple views or multiple ways you handle these things. I guess it is out of scope for this, maybe. Okay, maybe later we can discuss on this if you have time. So basically how you structure your like kt files, right? So now let's close all these tabs. Okay, so since you know the starting point is there, now let's start with a simple box screen. Okay, so if I open this box screen, you will find that it is basically nothing. It's a function. Well, it's a function. Like I thought it's a class or something. So what does composable, how does composable works, right? So composable, you have a special annotation you can find here, that is at the rate composable, which basically composes, as the name suggests. Okay, to be frank, it's just what it does. It composes the view inside, right? It's not a view, it's a composable. That term you use here is composable, right? So the composable basically composes it, and whenever there is some change or some state has been changed, it recomposes it, right? You can think of it as if from a point of view of a Flutter developer, it's basically drawing and redrawing it, right? Redraw the same structure, right? That's thing we do here, right? So let's discuss and let's dissect deep into the structure. It's a function, first of all, and you will think, what's the return type of the function, right? You can see that its return type is unit, so it doesn't return anything. By default, composable does not return anything, right? That's a basic structure. Now moving on, so what you see is a box. So box is basically what you can think as an empty container. Okay, it's an empty container. Okay, you can mold it according to your need, right? So box is having certain parameters, right? Box, you can see that box can be wrapped inside a box. Okay, it's basically what you can think of is if you are from a web perspective, you can think that things inside this are actually inside this. Like for example, this box will be inside this hierarchical box, right? So since this box is outside, this box will presently be inside this box, right? If I run this app, you will be surely be able to understand in an easier way, right? I'll be explaining you all the terms that you see on the screen. Just for now, for simplicity purpose, think of this red box as the outside box. As you can see that I have colored it red. So this is the outside box, and this is the inside box. So you already see that it's inside, right? Now let's dive deep into the code, right? So box, as I already previously told you, is basically a blank container, right? So containers, every composable, like every items, like box is the first composable, like in-house composable that is provided by Android, like the Android team. I have already shown you. This is the first in-house. So it has having something like modifier, content alignment, propagate main constraints, and the content. So from the contents perspective, this is the content that we have passed into it, right? So I guess you are familiar with the content now. Content is whatever this particular box consists inside, right? That is the content, right? First of all, that. Secondly, what you can see is a modifier. Modifier, I will surely say that modifier is the most important thing that you should know about composables. It's really helpful for you. Anything that you want to do, maybe changing the color, changing the perspective, it's all those things are being done by the modifiers, right? So modifiers are like, for example, here you can see that I have changed the background color to red, and I have set a size of 200 dp. Like, DP is basically, I guess, from Android users, like Android developers already know about DP, so I'm not explaining into it. So basically, size 200 means height and width is 200, right? You can specifically determine it. I will surely show you. And there's the content alignment. Content alignment is the content which is inside, that is the box, align that content. Like, so I have done alignment center. That's why the content inside is in the center, right? I guess these are the easiest term that you can understand. I guess this is the minimal thing. Let's dive a bit into the code, right? For example, if I just comment this out, comment this particular line and use this. So what I have done, I've done the height as 200, and my width is 40 dp, right? So here you can see that the height is 200 and the width is 40 dp, right? That's simple, man. It's really simple. You are just appending to the particular like, for example, if you want to do something else, you can see that it is a list of stuff already here, right? There's a list of stuff that you can do. Like, more example, you can change something like the alpha value, content size, animation, border. You can do border. We'll look into the borders also. We will look very deep into certain modifiers, but yeah, this is the simplest. You can just dot into it and you can change the web parameters. Let's see into the border. So it's similar, right? Let's do the border thing, right? And since I didn't define any size, what do you guys think it will happen if I do run this? You will see that you are just having this particular element, which is the center element. You can see the outside element, right? So what did it happen? So we didn't define any size for this, right? So that's why it happened, right? If I bring this size back, let's see, you will see that it gets back to its original position of green, and blue was the border. I guess you can see a thin line surrounding it. That's the blue border, right? So now maybe I want to rotate the stuff inside it. It's like really tricky to do inside an XML file, right? So what we can do, we can just rotate the things that is inside, right? Maybe what we can do, we can just do this, rotate to 20-degree, right? Which is basically the inside content will be rotated by 20-degree. So like, you see that this modifiers is so powerful, man. You can do anything with this modifiers, right? So maybe I want to, move this, like this item, like a 20 x-axis and 20 y-axis offset. Like, it should be somewhere here. I want that. So what I will do, I will add a modifier which is offset. So offset, basically, as the name suggests, will offset the the present x and y coordinates and move that particular component to that position, right? You see that I have moved it, right? I guess it is, you can understand it properly. I guess if you guys have any doubt, I guess we can have a discussion in the end, right? I will try to ask if you have any doubt in the middle also, right? So I guess this is what simple modifiers for a box can done. Okay, now let's look into something like, for example, this particular box, I want to make it, the corner should be round. Okay, like it should be round. Okay, what should I do? I will just to a clip border. So clip, basically, as the name suggests, will clip the border, which is having a round corner shape. Right? There are multiple shapes: circle shape, round corner shape. There are multiple shape that you can take up. So we are having a round corner shape. As the name suggests, it is shaping the corners. Right? It is doing by 20%. Let's try this out and let's see what happens. Right? So if you see that the corner is already being rounded off, right? If I do 100%, it will see a circle, right? Most probably, yeah. Oh, I guess, yeah. What happened? You will see a circle, right? That's it. But there is a catch here, right? If you if you just cut this line, you might think that it is a chainable command, right? So if you just cut this line, and if you feel that I will just add it at the end of this here, do you guys think it will work? I will say it won't work. Why? So, like, modifiers are actually done in a sequential way. Like, for example, first the border color has been done as green. Sorry, the background color has been done green. Next, the size has been defined. Right, the size is 50, 50, 50. Now, when the clipping is being done, the size is already taking up the edges. So if even if there is a clipping being done, it won't be taken up, right? Because the size has already been fixed to 50/50, right? So that is why the like the order in which you actually do the modification or the modifiers is important, right? As you can see that the clipping is being done here, right, properly. That's it. Now you can actually chain multiple modifiers, as I can show you in a bit here. Just cleaning up a bit, like for example, I don't need this for now. Now suppose I want to add a padding. What do you think I should do? I will just do a dot padding. There is always a modifier there for it, right? So I will just do a padding of 10. Okay, 10.dp, right? Let me just return it. You will see that okay, you can't see the padding now because it's center aligned. Let me just remove this and rerun it. So now you guys can see there is a padding, right? So padding is for the outside box, right? Now what I can do, I can actually chain this up, right? So what I can do, I can add a border here. For example, I can do a border which is I can give it a height of 2 dp, or maybe like a bit thicker, maybe 5 dp. And I will give it a color, colors dot, yes, it's color dot, maybe I will go for different color, maybe black. Okay. And what I do, I also add another padding, right? I will just copy these two stuff again. Okay, and I will just paste it down here. So what do you guys think it should look like? There will be basically a padding. First of all, there is a padding, then there is a border, then there is a padding, and then there is a border. So you can see that it has followed that same path. But what you guys also notice, that this particular box which is inside is being cut off, right? Because this box is not being moved from this particular section. Like first of all, there is a padding 10, it moved that much. Then there's a border of 5. So the border of 5, this particular box didn't move, right? Because it is not padding, right? It is just overlapping. That is also a thing that I wanted you guys to explore, is basically overlapping, right? The stuff here, whenever you do a simple thing, like for example, I just so you guys understood this particular section, right? You can chain these things up, right? You can chain the same commands up and down, and you can get multiple views that you want, right? Now I will show to you guys a thing, different thing. Now let me just uncomment this section. I will just remove this from here. I'll just put this up here. I will import it. Okay. Now what happened? Option. I guess there is most probably Android X that compose dot UI dot text. Okay, let me see. I guess there is a issue with this a bit. Import, and okay, I can see it now. Okay, yeah, good. So I will just import this. So it has imported this text material from material, right? So now what do you guys think if there are multiple, for example, there are another line here and another line here? What do you guys think will it do? Will it do side by side, bottom, those bus, like let me just change the world, maybe world. Okay. And what I will do, I will just clean up this, right, so that it's easily visible. Now I will just read on it. So now you guys can see that the things are overlapping here, right? So by default, the composables are basically from this particular 0 0, you can think of this coordinate, and those are basically over here, right? Both all are being done here. So to align this stuff, like from top to bottom, like you should do it in a first hello, then world, then hello again, vertically or horizontally. You have to do different thing. I will explain you in a bit. So this is also a issue, or you can think pros and cons. You actually do it with frame layout initially with the Android view, but yeah, you can also do this. Now let me define you one more thing in the size. Right, size, I already shown you that there is a height and width. Now you want to do something like match parent. So what you do here is basically fill max. You can see that max size, max height, max width. Let's take I guess the name already suggests that it is taking the max size that is possible, right? So if I do this, it will be just taking up the max size, which is the whole screen. Right, now you can also add a fraction here. Maybe I want 0.f, like 70 percent fraction here. So it will be taking up 70% of the height and 70% of the width. Right, so this is what is fraction about. And same thing, you can actually play around with this a bit. Maybe what you can do is basically dot fill max width, which is like filling the max width, and the fill max height, which will be basically somewhere like 70%. In this scenario, what you will see is basically the width will be the fully taken and the height will be 70% taken. I guess that is a quite easy understanding, but this was a pretty tough in like previous view system, right? So I guess this is quite easy now. Yeah, that is from simple box and your overlapping and modifiers, right? Yeah, I guess you understood about box and modifiers in this particular section. Right? In case you have any doubt, just put it in the chat. I will surely do it in like some time, right? Let's move on to the next section, which is like I previously show you the issue, right? The issue is basically when there are multiple options or multiple, for example, two texts are there simultaneously. In that case, they overlap each other, right? So now let's look into something which is row. As the name suggests, the row screen is basically you want to align elements in a row, like in a horizontal way, right? So in that case, you put the element in a row. So let's start the screen. Let's see what is inside. So as you can see there, it's quite a easy screen. It is not having much. It is just having a row, and it is having two boxes, right? I guess you have already understood what box is. It's basically a green box with a 50% size, 50 size DP, right? And what is row? Row, if you hover over it, I always told you, like, see, hover over it, you will get, like, you can see that it's a horizontal sequence, right? So, like, whenever you put something inside it, it will be horizontally sequenced in a way, right? Now, so you can see that I have defined a height of 100. The elements are in the top corner, right? I don't want that, right? I want it to be somewhere like in the center, right? So now whenever there's a row, there is a vertical alignment. Okay, it's a bit tricky. When there's a row, there is a vertical alignment. So what does vertical alignment do? It's basically aligns it vertically, right? If you like have a look now, it's basically aligned vertically, right? So rows will have vertical alignment and columns will have horizontal alignments. Okay, I guess it is like opposite. Like when you have rows, it will be vertical alignment, and when it's columns, it will be horizontal alignment. Now you guys also can see there is something called a horizontal arrangement. So like this is called horizontal arrangement. Sorry. So horizontal arrangement is basically the elements which are horizontally present, which is the block, box, and box. This will be actually being um, this is actually being um, spaced around or thing. Like for example, you see that there is called something called space evenly. Like let's do a dot here. You can see that it's center. If I do a center, it's like really simple. It will just put it inside the center, right up here. But if I want to do something like there is something called space evenly. Okay, space evenly. It will basically give equal spacing on all the sides. Like see, this is equal, this is equal, and this is equal. All the the sides are same, right? Now, what I can do, I can just add another box. I show you how it looks, right? So now, if I do this, so see that they are all evenly spaced. Now, what I can also do is something called space stick. So it is called space, maybe space around. So space around, what it does is basically surrounding the space of that particular element. Now you can see that this spaces are larger and this space is smaller, right? So what is this? So basically the spaces are being calculated here. So this space is actually the, like, you can think of as a padding, right? It's a padding surrounding the box, right? So so in this particular section in between this two box, the space is being doubled, right? The space from this box and the space from this box. That's why this space is a bit bigger than the space up here, right? So that's the space around the elements inside the row, right? And you can play around with this and you can get multiple options. So that is overall the row. Okay, I guess row is something similar to a, what you can say, linear layout, but with a, like a horizontal linear layout, you can think of in that way, right? So you can see that it's a modifier, it's the same. Horizontal arrangement I already make you understood. Vertical alignment I already shown you. And there's a content is the thing that is inside it, right? I guess this should be easy. Now, let's move on to the next section, which is basically our column screen. So the column screen is having our same thing. It's totally the same thing, but it's just for the columns, nothing else. Okay. So see, I have done fill max size. So it's taking up the height and it's in the corner. So it's like, so now see, I have done a film max height, then I have done a height of 100. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense, right? Because, like, since this has already been done as a 100 height, this will never be a option, right? What I should have done is basically a width, right? Width of maybe 200 will be a better option. Just do it as a 200, right? So now you guys can see that the height the width is 200, right? It also have the same parameters as I have already told you. For column based horizontal alignment, so if I do a horizontal alignment, so it will basically align it horizontally, like in this particular line. Let's see how does it look, right? So see, it is aligned center horizontally, right? As the name says, centered horizontally. Okay. Now I can also play around with this. Like maybe I want to do something like end or start. It's like taking the things to the end or the start of the horizontal alignment. Now it's the end. Now I want to do something like vertical arrangement. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's why I'm not diving deep into it. So like it's the same thing as previous I have already mentioned. Now I'm just doing a space evenly. It will be spaced evenly, right? That's it. The rows and columns, that's the same. So now you know about rows, you know about columns. Now there is, like, now you want to actually get these things together to make something, right? You want to make a UI, right? For example, we want to make something like a, a chat, like for example in the WhatsApp you have multiple chats, right? So we want to make a single item of that chat. Okay, so what we can do, we can actually combine these two things that we have learned here, and we will be actually looking into chat items, right? Chat items are sorry, profile item actually. So profile item, it's same thing, right? I have done nothing. Okay, if I just run it, you can see the UI. Okay, so it's a really simple thing. It's just we think of a profile image, then the username and the chat. Okay, that's it. So now think of it from a UI perspective. What do you see here? First of all, you see a row, like image is there and there is some element here, right? So you see two things. There is, it's a row, right? It's a image, then there is another component, right? There's arranged horizontally. Whenever you think two elements are arranged horizontally, think of row. Now you see that username and the chat is what you can see vertically arranged, so that is a column, right? So now what we did is, it's quite simple, man. I just did a row, put inside a box is having a clip of circle size, right? Background is blue, size is 50. I guess it's quite understandable, right? Then there's a spacer. I guess like it's actually names the thing. So basically the width is 20, so that is giving a space in between, right? That's, I guess, you can think of, like, since well, like a modifier doesn't have something like a dot margin, right? You have padding but you don't have margin, right? So if you want something that sort of, you can use a spacer. Okay, like you want some spacing, so you can do this. And then there is a column, right? The column is of two text. text is basically the UI, the username. The second is the chat, right? So I guess it is quite understandable how I actually wrap those things together and like bring out a simple UI. It's quite simple, yeah. But this the same thing you have to wrap up with maybe like two linear layouts. Then we will be having something a circular profile image. That like these things are quite like it was really tedious in a Android perspective previously with XMS, but it's quite easy now. I guess you can see that it's mostly in something like a 20 lines of code, and you will getting this UI, right? So now you can see that text. So let's dive into text a bit. Okay, text is having multiple options to do. Okay, so if you see there is a text which is basically the text you write, right? We have already seen there's a font size which is basically the size of the, which is 20, right? By default, as you get, it's in somewhere like 12, so it's 20 now. Font weight is like you want to make it bold. There is multiple options. You can see that you have options like dot, normal, light, extra bold, extra light. There's multiple options and you can choose anything. And you can also choose by a weights. Okay, you can do anything up here, right? And you also have multiple other options, like for example the color, the style, then the font family, then the latest spacing, like the space between two letters, you can also detect that. And then you have the text alignment, overflow is in say in case like you have something which is the text is extra, then you can handle it by overflow. Then max lines, number of lines it should exit. My maximum, like I want maximum of 2 lines. Okay, those things, it's quite intuitive. I guess it's quite easy now with like Kotlin. You can get the power of Kotlin, like you don't get this in the XML, right? It's quite powerful now. So that's basic UI you can get, right? That's the basic UI. Okay, now that was for the UI perspective. Now, so the one chat doesn't make much sense, right? um okay. Okay, cool. Let me just do one thing. Just resharing a bit. Just give me a second. Sorry for the delay, but yep. I just realized that I am having some issue with this. Let me. Where is this particular screen? Just give me a
Yeah,
minute.
I think you can rejoin. Yep, yep.
Yeah. Just okay. I guess the screen is visible now.
Yep,
Uh,
yep. Screen is visible.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so sorry, actually, like I guess the Chrome actually crashed. Not sure why. So yeah, I guess we can have something local for now. Maybe we can jump onto it. I am actually trying to configure it in the backside. But yeah, so let's not freeze it a bit more. Let's look into it. So we were actually dissecting the profile items, right? So now let's move into the profile items. Right. So in the profile items, I already told you that there is this. Let's make me let me just run this item, profile item. Right. Let's run this up. So this is the column, and this is the spacing. This is the box. But this doesn't like so. See, you guys can see that the performance decreased, right? Even though it's M1, but it's slower than the cloud based that we achieved there, right? The cloud was quite faster, right? And it was it's crisp, right? But it's on par as the M1, right? This is an M1 laptop, and you can see that it's already on par as the cloud is on par at this. So any device you can, that's a benefit, man. I surely see a quite good benefit on that, right? So yeah, so see, that's this is the basic row that we have already discussed, the profile item. Now, but a single item doesn't make much sense, right? You need to have a list of it. So now let's have a look how we make lists here. Okay, so this is a list screen. It is just a fake data. This is a fake data. Just think of it as a list of users and data. Okay, it's a fake data, right? Now let's look into the list screen. Okay? So the list screen is having something really simple. Just a row, just a column, getting the user list and just for looping it and making the profile item. The profile item, I have just overloaded the same function. That's the benefit of compose. You can see that I just overloaded the same item, and like I am just adding a bit more, like making it a bit dynamic. Maybe like for example, um, where is it? The username. So username is it's basically a simple data class which is having a model, which is basically a ID, username, and bio. That's it. That's a data class. And the fake data is basically a simple list of IDs, username, and chats. Okay. Hope it's easier to understand, right? So I'm passing down a list of that fake users, right? So in the list screen, you can see that I'm simply just parsing on that list, right? Just like for each, it's a short list. Okay, that's it, man. And there's nothing. I'm just showing the ID, username, and the text, right? So, but like you see that it works fine, right? If I add multiple data, maybe like I want to add like I want to add much more. Maybe like I want to add a bit more. For example, I can just do this, right? Let's see how does it perform. Okay, you see what happened. It doesn't scroll. Why it doesn't scroll? So you have actually defined column, right? So the column is basically something which we stack one thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. So it is although it being stacked, but you have to enable something which is like I guess it's called a modifier, which is called a scrollable. Uh, that you have to do. I guess there is a modifier which is having a modifier dot. I guess it's scrollable. Yeah, it's scrollable, right? So you can do this and you can make it scrollable. But this this thing is equivalent to list view. If you guys have some idea about Android, you will understand that there's something called list view and there's something called recycler view. So this is equivalent to list view. You are listing those stuff one after another and it is showing. But I guess if you know about recycler view, you know the performance difference that you guys can actually see here, right? The performance is the key, right? The performance is always a key, right? You don't want to load all the data from the list at the same time, right? You want to load only the things that are only visible to the user. So there comes the lazy list. You can just comment it out. This is the easiest way to do a list of items, right? This is you can do, but it's only possible for a limited amount of list. Like if you have a multiple or infinite amount of data in that, like for example the Instagram feed, in that case you don't want to use a column, right? It's not efficient enough, right? So you will use something called a lazy list. It's basically a function, nothing. Use just the lazy column. So column then is a lazy column. As a name suggests, lazy column is there's something called a lazy and an eager loading. If you guys have any idea about that, it's basically, let me give you some idea about that basically. So the lazy, as a name suggests, doesn't load the thing directly. Okay, it waits until the time it's being absolutely required. In that time, it only loads the data, right? So that is what lazy means, right? Lazy and lazy column, as the name suggests, is whenever the data is visible in the UI, that is the time when the data is being loaded, right? That actually gains a lot of performance boost. And whenever there is a list is quite long and like for example millions of data, in that case it is quite efficient, right? That brings down the efficiency to a lot, right? Let's run this. I guess you won't see much difference. I have just added. Okay. What happened? Oh, okay. I have added multiple users, right? So you guys can see that it's already inheritedly having that scroll feature. I didn't do anything. Didn't have to add any scrollable tag. Let me just reduce the data so that it's more visible properly. Okay. So now, what's the benefit? So in recycler view, if you guys remember, we have to define the item, we have to define the adapter, we have to define how the things load from the list to the adapter. We have to pass the data to the adapter, make sure that the adapter is being properly named. Like if the name is wrong, it will fail. The like the inflation will fail. When you inflate, it fails. Those things are tough because you don't have any static type, right? It's since it's XML, it only being possible to test it when you run it or build it, right? But it is not the case in here, because since we know that it is been statically typed, we already know that the users will be coming and the users will be having this data, right? And the another benefit is that we can put anything in between. Like, see, there's items which takes the list of users. We pass down the users to here, and this is basically a profile item. Profile item is I already shown you, it's basically something empty. It's just taking the data and showing it, just a empty list. So you can see that it's a list of users and it's just showing it, nothing else. It's that simple. Okay, I didn't do anything, just change this for loop, okay, the for loop to efficient for loop. That's it. Now the benefit, you can actually see a count. For example, I don't know how many amount of elements are there. I don't have the list, but I do have the count. Or something like, for example, I want to show the same element for n number of times. In that case, you can just define the count and the item. Like for example, I have shown the text, like the item text. And you can also see a single item, like this is a single item, this is a single item. So these are single items are going to be added with the term item, right? Item and items, right? So you see, it's quite easy, man. You can just add any type of thing here. If you have seen many apps, they have a vertical view, like scrolling view, and there is also horizontal scrollers in between, right? That is a mess in a recycler view. You It is quite tough to do in a recycler view, like bottom, like a vertical scroll and a horizontal scroll together, right? So these things can be easily be done. So like you have this, which is actually vertically scrolling, and any item inside it can horizontally scroll, right? And you can have sections, like for example, this section can actually have a horizontal scroll, this section can have a vertical scroll, then items can have a vertical scroll once again. Doesn't matter, like that's why, like this is like a really, like what you can say, like development time is quite short in here. It's quite easy, right? So that's the benefit of lazy columns, right? I guess you guys have got some idea, right? Lazy columns. Now, like let me use this particular parameter which is available, right? It just reverses the layout. So like sometimes I do this. Like example, I have a data which is ascending order, and the user like there's an option to actually filter it. Like you have to maybe show in a descending order. You can just do this, like have a some sort of state here. We will discuss it later, and just reverse it. That's it. Okay. So it will be that easy, right? And now that what you can do, it is quite easy when there. Now you can also see that it is having multiple things. Content padding is basically whenever you a single item, for example, the user one, user two, you can actually have some padding surrounding it. Like you don't have to manually go and add a padding to each and every item. You can just define it here, okay, content padding, and it will do it. Same vertical alignment and horizontal alignment and vertical arrangement. It's same as the column. Fling behavior is something which you will not see much, but it's whenever you scroll fast, you see when you reach the bottom, you see some sort of animation, a fling sort of, right? That can be actually being handled. So these are all the parameters. You can actually test it out, you can check it out. It's really good. You can actually test it out, right? So I guess that was for the list screen. Like now we can try something like a now until now you guys have we have covered regarding how to show a list, how to show a static view. Now until now we are doing with the static view, but we don't actually have static view, right? We have some data, we have to store some. For example, there's a cart. When I do a plus plus on that, the cart count should increase, right? So those things, you need some sort of a state, right, to be managed, right? That can't be done with this the things that we have learned up till now. Now let's dive deep into the state management sort of things, right? How do you state manage things? Let's look into this counter. It's a simple counter example. It doesn't have much. Let me just remove all of this. Let me just give it a hint of type 0. Okay. uh, found. Let me just clean it up a bit so that we can see why the thing it is, why it is, right? Let's do this. What is this? I change to 1. Okay. So you see, I want actually to whenever I click on a button, the the count increases. Like I'm clicking on the button, the count is not increasing. Why? I have done a count plus plus on click. The button, you see there's a new component that you see now. The button is having same thing. All the modifiers, all are having modifier. There's an extra thing that you can see on click. On click triggers a function, right? That's it. There's a shape you can do elevation. If you want to do elevation, it's quite easy. Border stroke, right? Content padding, all those things can be done. Like you can actually look around this. There are multiple options you can do, and whatever you put inside this particular braces, you get this. Like for example, I put a text which is increase, which is doing this, right? So yeah, now I have a text which is on top of there, and whenever I click on this button, the text should increase the count. From presently it is 0, it should be increased, right? Even though I made it var, it's not changing, right? Let me remove the curly braces. It's not changing. What we should do, maybe the thing is unmutable. Maybe we can do a mutable state of, if you have some idea about um, Android, you will remember that we can do a mutable state of of a particular value, so that it is what you can say, um, changeable, right? Just a second. Okay, so it is changeable, right? So we can actually try something like this. What happened here? State of value teacher. Anyways, cool. So mutable state means that this particular state can be changed, right? But even though you do this, it won't. It is having the value. You just do dot value plus plus. Okay. But even though that, if you increase the count, it will not increase the count, right? So you actually need to do, what's the issue here? You see, there is something called a composable up here, right? So I actually previously told you regarding composable, they basically redraws the stuff, right? So whenever I click on the button, it should be composed, right? It should be redrawn, which is being triggered here. Whenever it is being redrawn, it is getting the data from here, and it can't change it because it is already being initialized to 0 once again, right? So every time I click on this, even though it's recomposing, but since it is reinitializing to 0, the value will always be remaining 0. Now there is something called remember. Let me just do a control Z to the initial state the code was previously. So you see that what I did is basically remember. I surround the thing with a remember. So what does remember do? Remember basically remembers the stuff which was being previously stored, right? Whenever there is a recomposition, it basically remembers the previous state. So here the previous state is 0. Now when I read on this app, I click on the counter, it is increasing, because whenever I click on the counter, recomposition is being done, then it goes to this line. Now, due to the remember item here, the composer knows that there is something, the previous value, there is some previous value, right, which has been updated. Keep that value, don't reinitialize it. Okay, so rather than reinitializing with 0, it is basically remaining using the previous value, which is on plus plus is basically increasing it to 3, and then the composable is triggered composing, then it is showing 3 here, right? So this basically remembers it. There are multiple remember. You can see that you can remember the scope, the top bar state, the savable async task remember, okay, drawable state, intermediate transition. Okay, there are many things that can be remembered, right? So you it is quite common. You see, I remember block inside in a perspective of a compose, right? Now let's try to do something here. I would show you some basic animation. Okay, it's quite easy. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's make something visible. Is visible. Uh, yes, ideally visible. Let's make it a boolean. Make it. So what I will do, I will make a box here. It is having a modifier dot um, dot a background, and the color dot colors dot red. Okay, that's a silent, and I will having a size of 200 pp. Okay, so I'm having this, right. So let's remove this section, and what I will do, I will basically change it to compound value is equals to not. This is not count. This is called is visible, right? It is visible. So is visible dot value and not is visible dot value, right? So it's just changing the state, right? It's just making the true things false and the false things true, right? There is something called animated visibility, right? Now the animated visibility is having uh, a visible state, which is the state that have to be visible. It should be a boolean. I guess you if you see that it's a boolean. Okay. Then there is a modifier. It's already there. Enter and exit transition label. Okay. Now let's put this content there. Okay. Right. And putting this as is visible. What is this showing? It's a mutable state. Sorry, mutable. Uh, mutable. Keeping. Let's see. Okay, so in this case, I forgot the requirement of this. Let's see. What does it want? It wants a type of this. Right. So, okay, let me just give it a true for now. Uh, just the second. I will just do one thing. Okay, what is this? Just a minute, guys. Just a minute. Okay, okay. I can share back, I guess. Just having some water,
Yep.
guys.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if anyone must be having any questions, feel free to ping in the chat. And also, I'm sure a lot of people might not have been able to join this session because I was just talking to my technical person. We had some technical issues, and most of you didn't get the notifications at the time. So don't worry. At the time of this session is getting recorded, so everyone will be getting access to Debanshu's session, and everyone will be getting the value out of it. So more than 400 people had actually registered. So due to technical glitches, the notifications didn't go there, but everyone will be getting the session. So don't worry. Yeah, Devanshu, your screen is visible. You can continue. Yep.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so what I was doing a mutable true, right? So now, since it is showing that it is, we want something different, right? So let's give it different by using a by operator. I forgot about this by operator. Just Google it a bit. Um, Import. Okay. Now it is working though. And it visibility. It wants boolean. What happened? Let me just Google it a bit. Visible. Oh, it's visible, right? Oh, visible state. What does it want, bro? Copying from Google a bit. So that, okay, let's see what's the difference here. Import, right? I guess I use a different. Oh, I use a different thing. That's fine. Let's keep this here. Let's copy this. Let's bring it down here. Right. I use a different parameter. That's fine. So okay, now let's just do this. It's editable now, and it is also editable, right? So just now, if I just sync, okay, a certain Gradle sync. So what I was telling, so animated visibility, it's basically a simple thing. It's a simplest animation that you can put on. Okay, there's nothing much you need to do here. It will just toggle the visibility based on the state here. So the state is true now, but whenever I click on this button, it should be changed, right? So it will see you see a slight animation here, like light animation which is collapsing, and you are just getting it up. If you don't have this, if you have something like, you can also do this with anything, right? You can just do a if, and you can just check if it's editable. In that case, view it, otherwise don't view it. If I do this, you just do a if else, right? It works, right? Though it works, but you see there's a jump, right? The jump is there. So it is a change now. Like, it's like, you see, like, just adding a simple parameter can like change your like UI. So much more animation can be added. So guys, do look into animation. I sometimes use it. It depends, but you can look into animations also, right? So what I was now, so that was the counterpart. Now let's try out the um Instagram UI, right? It's nothing much, not much fancy. It's basically the static UI, right? That's it, man. That's what we were doing. Okay. There's a header which is having a heading and a section of the message. Then there are a list of data. Okay, that's it. And these are posts. Like, as you can see, the alignments are there. So let me give you a overview of how I achieved this particular UI. Okay, so let's look into this. Okay, collapsing the items so that it's more visible. Now let's look into this. Let's dive deep into this. So there's something called scaffold. Okay, so if you are from a Flutter perspective, okay, you know about scaffold. Scaffold is what you can think of as a screen, a total screen. It is having multiple things like a top bar, the content section. Then there is also uh, floating action buttons. Okay, floating action button positions, you can also add positions to that. Snack bar are quite tough in Jetpack Compose. It requires coroutine and all those stuff, so not discussing here. So those things. And the bottom bar, maybe bottom navigation. Okay, all these things are actually being done under the scaffold. So scaffold actually knows the position. Okay, like the top bar should be in the top, so it knows it. So rather than making this thing from scratch, you can also use scaffold. Okay, so in this scaffold we're having a modifier which is simple, like taking a full size. Okay, then there is a top bar. Okay, top bar is having a modifier which is giving it a padding from the end. Okay, then there's a title which is taking another composable which is the Android text. And there's the actions. Okay, if you see on the top bar, it is having all this options, right? The actions, the window inserts, the color, you can change the color of the then also you have navigation icons. Okay, All navigation icons are basically the back button in front of this. Okay, so all these things are available in the top bar itself. So these are like already present composables, you can use it. Okay, now the next thing that you can see is the content. Okay, in the content you find that I have done something which is a lazy column. Okay, and the lazy column is having a count of 10 and an item. Okay, I'm not making it quite generic. You can use a generic, you can pass the parameter here, you can do it, but I'm just defining there are 10 items to be added, which is this, right? So what I did, I am adding a padding of 70 on the top. You might think, why 70 padding is there? Okay, now if I don't do this padding, the first item will basically be under the list. Like this is a top bar. There's a way to handle this, but there's a simplest way you can actually work around it, is basically adding a top padding to it, right? Like, see, otherwise this will be basically below it, 70, right? So I added a 70 padding on the top. Got it? Now it is having 10 items. Okay, if you look into the items, let's look and dive into the items. If you see, each and every item is having a profile section, which is this section. There's a box, think of it as the image I have added. This is the image. There is an action section, which is this particular action section, like the favorite, the message send and the save. And then there is a text section. Okay, so all the sections are divided. So see, like it is same as writing functions. So how easy it is that you can do it. Now you can actually use this action section on the top or anywhere. Like, for example, if I want to use it um, as an item here, right? If I want to use it as an item here, I can just pass it, and the function becomes as reusable as you want, right? See, you will have this in the top, right? So it becomes so much reusable because of this composable, right? So yeah, so let's see. So you have a profile, which is basically the image, the user image, the name, and the actions. And then there's a box, which is the image. Then there's a action section, and there's a text section, which is basically the likes. Okay. Now you see that there's a profile section. Let's look into the profile view. Okay, what I did here. Now what I've done, I have put a row inside a row. Now what do you see here? You see there's a row, right? Because I have previously told you, right? If you see items which are horizontal, think of it as a row. Now you see that these two items are separated and this item is separated. So do you remember something which is called a space between? I talked about in arrangements. So I've used horizontal space between. So this is a row, this is an item. So this is a row and this is an icon, and we are using space between to make this UI. Otherwise what you could have done is basically using a spacer, which is not a cleaner way, right? You want to make it as minimal and as readable as possible. So this, what you can think, like, put that items, the box, the user image and the text inside a single row, and another item as a like, and then use a space between, right? I guess this was quite understandable. So that, like you could have done by adding a spacer, right? Removing this row, adding only this two boxes, and then adding a spacer in between, right? If I just do it, maybe what you guys could have done, another approach is this, then adding a spacer which will be having a width, uh, modifier dot width, and it will be somewhere like mm, intrinsic max size. It should work. I'm not sure. So you could have done like some size, maybe like maybe 20. Yeah. So you see that you have added it, right? It is there, but you have to do some. You have to play around with this, right? This space between is there, right? So this thing all can be reduced down to just wrapping it up with a row. Since you know this is a row, right? These two elements are parceled in a row, so it's easier, right? So that's a profile view. Now there is action section. Action section is same thing that use the same trick, right? You have, this is a row and this is a single item. So you see this is a row with three icons and a single item, okay, which is this, right? I use the same trick, right? So it's easier and it's much cleaner, so that you don't have to manually determine the width, right? So and this, and then you actually add that like test. Yeah, like text. And yeah, that's your basic UI view. You can just passing your random data. You can hook it onto a API, like getting the data from the API and passing out to the, like making this as a user list. Okay, user list, and passing the data to this and using it further. For the API perspective, you can also use like the view models. You can use those things, right? Not discussing it here because it is quite an advanced stuff. Okay, you can actually try it out, have a look into that. There are much YouTube videos on that, and I'm also sharing some link which will be basically helpful to revise all the stuff that you have seen here and further, right? You can also look into that. Okay, now just like a difference that I want to show you is something called a material and a material 2 and material 3. Let me just Google it a bit so that I can show you the image. So if you see that in the recent times, Google has introduced something which is material 3, M3. They're calling it M3. And let me just stop sharing and share that screen. Chrome tab. Okay. So this is the latest design principle that guidelines, what you can say, the Google follows. So it is having material 3. Okay. So what is the difference between material 2 and material 3? It's basically the way you write your code and how the things looks. Okay. So if you see, there is like a style guidelines here. You can see that there are colors that you they are preferable, like the primary. Okay. And what are the, like if you want to see the implementation, you can actually go that. It's not available, but yeah, you can have a look into Flutter also. Like basically this is design principle, nothing much, but just a life. You don't need to determine, you don't need to worry about this. So dynamic color, as the name suggests, I guess you have seen the new pixels. They are actually, whenever you change the background, what you can say, the wallpaper, the color changes, right? Those things are being done via this dynamic color. And actually, I guess I am using material 3 in this particular application. Do I have enabled it? Yep. In this local application, I'm using Material G. I'm showing you guys. Okay. So yeah, and there is much more a rounder version of this, right? If you see, you can have a look up here. You can also see Android examples. You can see example in Jetpack Compose, right? You can also see all these things here, right? So do have a look in this. It's really interesting, like migrating from like just a second, I'm opening the screen. So yeah, you see that material 2, like what we did previously with XML and what I show you is material 2, then my material 3 came. There is not much difference. It's basically the first of all yeah, library is different, obviously. Then whenever you are choosing the color schemes are a bit different. Okay. Okay, the thing is that, and the way you do, right? I Let me show you difference. Maybe not this. Whatever we have discussed, something maybe. Hmm. Anyways, like you can actually see. Okay, like didn't find any example. Why man? Typography is different. Is it something? No. Okay, let me show you the local project. Okay, that will be much better. So let me share you with this one. Okay, so if you see the theme now, I shown you the previous theme, right? It was quite simple. It was using the color directly from the like what we have defined, right? But now at material 3, you have two set of colors. This is the lighter version, this is the darker version. Okay. As you can see from this side, right? So this is basically the default color of the application. Okay. Whenever you they just comes up, and you have to set a darker and a lighter version. And when you go to theme, it is quite complicated now with so much logic now. Okay. Previously it was just a dark theme and you show this color, otherwise light theme you show this color. So there's dark theme, we have done this set of colors, and the light theme we have set up this set of colors. By default you see that it is overriding this colors, right? And which are the colors, okay. You can actually play around with this, okay. If you see that it is having so many options, right? You want to do a background color, surface color, all these things can be done here, right? So now let's jump into the theme. This theme, if you guys remember, is basically this theme, right? So let's look into theme. It is taking one thing, which is the color scheme. It is checking the version, right? It is only available above S is the latest version of Android. So it is just 31, right? It should be above 31 to have the dynamic color feature. Like whenever you change the color of the application, it should change, right? So there it is there. Then there's a dark theme and there is a L scheme. So depending on this conditions, it's a when block, right? Whenever there's a dark theme, do dark color, else do light color, or if there's a dynamic color, use dynamic color, okay. That's it. Then ignore this part, it's for the section, it's for this section, okay. And then you just pass it to the theme which is being used. So the extra thing that you see here is basically the dynamic color section, right? I'm not sure if it will work here. Let me just try to change the wallpaper maybe to something like a green color. Okay, okay. Okay, it's not changing. Anyways, so like whenever you change the like the wallpaper, it will change accordingly. Okay, so this is the like the basics of dynamic material three. It's a different design principle. Okay, like the rounding is a different, the buttons are a bit different shape, okay. The guidelines are a bit different, but I don't need to have a FOMO around it. It's basically the same thing, just focus on the basics of Android. It will work, right? So I guess do I have anything? I will share you some link maybe, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I think Devanshu, you can share me the links if you want to anything. I'll share them. Yeah, I think yeah, people can even screenshot it if they want. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, if you guys can want, you can actually screenshot it. These are basically the like already available courses which are provided by Google. Like what not courses actually, it's a set of timelines you can follow and guidelines. It's really easy. If I show you one of those, so you guys can see there are like how you first set up your application, okay, building the UI, material design, navigation, architecture. So these are all like you can just explore it. You can actually have pathways you can follow, right? So it's quite intuitive and it's really good understanding for you, right? And yep, I guess that's it from my side.
Sure.
Ah,
Cool, cool. I think it was a great session, Devanshu, first of all, right? And I'm sure that a lot of people will find value out of it. I think one thing was that the majority of the people were not able to join due to some technical, glitches from Google Calendar. They didn't receive the notification, but what everyone will be getting is that they will be getting the whole recording of the session mailed to them along with, some other exciting details as well about what's ahead, right? So there will be more sessions, coming up. But yeah, but first of all, a large thank you to Devanshu. So Devanshu, thanks a lot for doing this for the community, and I'm sure a lot of people will find it valuable going forward into their Android development journeys. Right, I think Jetpack Compose is super cool thing which is coming into the picture, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to find value out of it, right? So yeah, thanks man once again, right? And I'm hoping to see you soon again, someday, like very soon,
yeah, sure,
yeah.
sure, man. It was a really great
Sure.
experience, like
Yeah.
sharing with you guys the like my understanding. Actually, I'm also a bit new to this. I'm also exploring it. So surely, guys, do explore Android and Jetpack Compose. Thank you, Jaideep, and the team for like giving me this opportunity. Yeah, sure.
Sure, thanks Devanshu, take care, bye. Sure. Cool. Cool. Guys, so I think that would be it for today's session, right? So if you're new to this mentor community, like make sure you check out the description. There are a lot of links which will be found, which you can find there, right? Even the more efficient platform which Devanshu shared today, the links are everywhere in the description box. So make sure to check it out. And if you are interested into more, such workshops, more such valuable sessions, make sure to subscribe to this channel and drop a like right on our YouTube channel. We are planning to grow the YouTube channel as well, right? So make sure to subscribe and keep up the support. And I'm hoping to see you soon again, in the very next workshops with our very next awesome mentors, right, from the community. So yeah, take care, guys. A very a warm thank you to all who have joined, and I'm sure we'll see you in the next one. So take care, a very good night, and I'm rooting for our next meeting. Yep, cool. So with that, I'll be ending the broadcast, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.